Okay, Lisa. From the Houston section, we will entertain any questions. Anyone have any questions? Okay, go ahead.
So who negotiates your AFAs, and do you have guidelines? I mean, is it up to all of your in-house counsel to just negotiate what they think is reasonable, or do you have some kind of guidelines as to what you think is a good idea, or your ranges?
We don't have guidelines because we've actually done some just really hybrid, we've really come up with some crazy things. I do find that the more organized the law firm, the easier it is for us to come to the table and have these conversations, because you have to come armed with your data and we come armed with our data, and it really helps us quickly agree on terms. One of our law firms, we've worked with them for years, and we decided we didn't want to see thousands and thousands of invoices from them. We decided, here's a group of work. We know this is how much it costs every year. On their end, they know how much they need to make on that business, right? And we came up with this capped fee for the year, and our incentive to them was, if you come in at X% under that cap, we'll split the difference with you.
Next question.
I just have a question. When you were talking about the statement of accounts that you receive, and you were saying that you wish the law firms wouldn't send those so much, how do you, I know from our standpoint, we use those to be sure that something hasn't gotten missed either in your system, that if there's a problem, how are we to know that there's something in your payment plan or your process that is having a problem getting through? Do you monitor those as well? Do you have some kind of method of telling when an invoice gets to a certain age that it's not sitting on one of the approvers' inbox and he's just not approved it?
That's a really good question, and I do a lot of investigation to try to avoid those things from happening. So every week we have a process that takes approved invoices in our e-billing system and it pushes them to SAP. I run a series of maintenance reports to make sure no one's sitting on invoices here, and if they are, I make sure that we're having communications with the firm about that, because sometimes there are valid reasons for that. They're discussing something on the bill. So I run those reports. I also we have a process in IT that runs a report of any of those invoices that maybe got stuck in limbo, in SAP limbo. That doesn't actually happen that often because we've come so far in perfecting the way that works. But the one thing I think that might actually cause the problem for the law firm is that we have net 60 payment terms, and so I think that disconnect might happen once in a while where you haven't gotten paid and we actually have approved your invoice and it's gone to SAP and it's just waiting to ripen for payment. So I think that causes a problem. One other last point would be that Bridgeway software offers this portal for our law firms, so you can go in and look at your own information about invoices you've submitted to us, and you can quickly point out if there was one that was rejected due to data errors or whatever, and see that, oh boy, we never resubmitted that. That's why we haven't gotten paid for it. So the law firms actually get an email notification explaining that, but I know you probably get thousands of those emails, and that gets missed. So using that system, the corridor system, you can actually go and find out that information on your own. It'll tell you exactly why the invoice was rejected. This line of your leads file was missing a task code. And so you can go in and correct that and just resubmit it. So, and I do that, and then also in that quarterly accrual exercise I go through, I look at our major matters just to make sure we're not missing anything big. So, the statement accounts thing, we don't get them that often anymore, but I know that there are some reasons why your systems automatically send them out. So those are some of the reasons why I think we still get them.
Jason, do you have any questions online?
Yes, we've got a few here. What type of AFAs have been the most successful?
I think two kinds. The AFA that kind of has that take a group of work and just have a capped fee for it. So you avoid a lot of information, a lot of busy work, I think, and it also allows us to be able to forecast for a major part of our spending. And then the law firm, there's some risk on their side. They have to manage that matter so that, because they know there's not a open checkbook for that work. So I think the capped fees work well with those organized firms that we have that we spend a lot of money on. So I like that one. And I also like, I really like the success-based AFAs because, it's a little bit of a hybrid of that capped fee, but we give you an employment litigation, for example, and we know it should cost about X, and we don't want it to cost much more than that. So we come up with this, hey, if you can resolve the matter at this phase, we'll give you this bonus. And there's some very distinct, descriptions of what we consider the success for that matter. So I think those two are really helpful to Rockwell and hopefully mutually beneficial. I mean, we actually get approached by our law firms more and more often because they've had a good experience with us working in an AFA.
Did you freeze TK rates during the economic downturn? And if so, have you relaxed the freeze this year?
We have actually frozen our rates for 3 years. So, I think the rates were just getting this automatic increase every year for decades. And they got to a point where, they were getting pretty high, and our spend, we were watching it climb. So, of course, we joined a lot of other companies and came up with that rate freeze. I can tell you that now, a couple years into this rate freeze, we are relaxing a little bit because, we're able to take these metrics and see how happy we are with your work. We also can compare you against other firms and see that, wow, you're a really good value and you've done such a good job that when you come and talk to us about rate increases, we're more considerate about all of those other factors. So across the board, we're probably, honestly, I'm going to just say I don't think we're ever going to just open those gates again. I think it's always going to be a firm-by-firm or case-by-case basis. We actually do entertain conversations about matter-based rates, so we might even talk about that kind of an alternative fee arrangement where you have a rate for certain types of matters and then maybe closer to your higher rate for specific matters that require some level of expertise that's very specialized.
All right. Do you use eCounsel for accruals, and if so, briefly explain how?
I actually have created, using a business intelligence tool, I've created reports of those major matters that quickly show me whether there are gaps in billing, and because I have the metrics available, I can say I only need to contact 20 firms, for example, and I just work with them one-on-one. I kind of find that to be a little bit easier.
With all the data that you have at your disposal, you must frustrate your firms at times. Well, what's the best way to help them understand the use of this data and to really encourage collaboration? Is that a phone call? Is that a face-to-face? It's all based on trust and respect, and how do you get there?
Yeah, I actually think that, we probably do frustrate them maybe more at the level of, darn it, their invoice keeps rejecting because of this, and now we got to keep spinning our wheels trying to get the data perfect in your invoice so it makes it to the system. I think that level is probably more frustrating to the law firms than us having access to the data, because they have access to the data. We have law firms that have really excellent reporting tools, and they actually give us a snapshot of what they're collecting. And so I actually feel like that collaboration is happening with, again, those really highly organized law firms.